There's a moment in every person's life when they look in the mirror and don't recognize who's staring back. For one man, that moment came at 300 pounds, standing in a hospital gown, hearing a doctor say the words that would shatter everything he thought he knew about himself. If you don't change, you won't see your daughter graduate high school. He was 32 years old. His daughter was 7. Do the math. That's not a warning. That's a death sentence with a deadline. And in that sterile hospital room, with fluorescent lights humming overhead and the smell of antiseptic burning his nostrils, something inside him didn't just break, it awakened. Let me take you back to where this story really begins. Picture a man who had given up on himself so completely that he couldn't walk up a flight of stairs without stopping twice to catch his breath. A man who avoided mirrors, deleted himself from family photos, made excuses for why he couldn't play with his daughter at the park. He'd wake up at 2 in the morning, chest tight, wondering if this was the night his heart would finally give out. Food wasn't fuel anymore. It was medication. It was the thing that numbed the pain of hating himself. Every night, he'd promise tomorrow would be different. Every morning, he'd break that promise before breakfast. He wasn't living. He was just refusing to die. And the worst part, he'd convinced himself this was all he deserved. Then came that doctor's appointment. That moment of brutal, unfiltered truth. But here's what nobody tells you about rock bottom. It's not the fall that changes you. It's what you do when you hit the ground. And this man? He didn't bounce back. He exploded upward. The next morning, he laced up a pair of shoes he'd bought 2 years earlier and never worn. He walked to the end of his driveway. Just the driveway. His legs burned. His lungs screamed. Sweat poured down his face in the cool morning air. But he did it. The next day, he walked to the mailbox. The day after that, to the corner. 1 week later, around the block. He wasn't training for anything. He was training to survive. 3 months in, something shifted. The weight started dropping. Yes, but something deeper was changing. He noticed he could tie his shoes without holding his breath. He could play with his daughter for 10 minutes instead of 2. He could look at himself in the mirror without immediately looking away. And then one day, scrolling through his phone, he saw it. A video of the Ironman World Championship. Athletes swimming 2.4 miles, biking 112 miles, then running a full marathon. He watched grown men and women cross that finish line and collapse into the arms of everything they'd sacrificed to get there. And he thought to himself, with 300 pounds still on the scale and barely able to jog half a mile, that's going to be me. Everyone told him he was insane. His family was worried. His friends laughed it off as a phase. Even he didn't fully believe it. But he'd learned something in those months of walking to the mailbox. Belief follows action, not the other way around. So he found a coach. He bought a used bike. He joined a swimming class for beginners. The only person over 200 pounds in a pool full of retirees doing water aerobics. He crashed that bike 7 times in the first month. He nearly drowned in the shallow end learning to breathe while swimming. He ran his first 5K in 45 minutes and cried at the finish line because he'd never felt prouder of anything in his entire life. The transformation wasn't linear. There were injuries, setbacks, weeks where the scale didn't move, nights where he sat in his car in the gym parking lot, too exhausted and broken to even go inside. He lost friends who couldn't understand his obsession. He missed birthday parties and barbecues. He chose ice baths over happy hours. People called him selfish obsessed, too extreme, and you know what? They were right. Because sometimes, saving your own life requires a level of selfishness that makes people uncomfortable. Sometimes, becoming who you're meant to be means disappointing who everyone expected you to stay. 2 years and 4 months after the doctor's appointment, he stood on a beach in Hawaii, 75 pounds lighter, staring at the Pacific Ocean at 5:30 in the morning. The Ironman, 2,000 athletes, 140.6 miles between him, and a finish line he'd only ever dreamed about. The swim was chaos, bodies everywhere, salt water burning his throat, panic rising in his chest. The bike was agony, headwinds so strong he thought he'd go backward, legs cramping at mile 60, every muscle begging him to stop. The marathon was hell, blisters on blisters, dehydration, hitting the wall at mile 18 and having to walk, one excruciating step at a time, while faster runners passed him like he was standing still. But at mile 25, with the finish line finally in sight, he heard his daughter scream his name. And everything that had ever hurt, everything he'd ever sacrificed, every single impossible step that brought him here, it all made sense. He crossed that line at 11 hours and 47 minutes. Not fast, not pretty, but finished. And as the announcer called his name and said those 5 words, "You are an Ironman," he didn't feel like a champion. He felt human again. So what can we learn from this? First, your breaking point can become your breakthrough. That moment you think will destroy you might be the moment that saves you. Second, start where you are. You don't need to be ready. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to take one step. Third, the world will doubt you until you prove them wrong. And even then, some people still won't believe. Do it anyway. Your transformation isn't for them. It's for you. Fourth, there's no such thing as too far gone. No matter how lost you feel, how much you've let yourself slip, how impossible the goal seems, someone, somewhere has come back from worse and become more. And finally, the person you're becoming will cost you the person you were. That price is worth paying. So here's my question for you. What's your Ironman? What's the thing you've been telling yourself is impossible? What's the dream you've buried under excuses and fear and the weight of who you used to be? You don't need to have it all figured out today. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to start. Take one step, walk to the mailbox, lace up the shoes, make the call, write the first page. Show up for yourself the way you've been showing up for everyone else. Because one day, you're going to look back at this moment and realize this was when everything changed. This was the day you decided you were worth fighting for. And that decision? That's what makes you an Ironman.